Today is going to be a little bit of a different video. I got Cassiel's Servant, signed no less, at Comic-Con and read it in one mammoth sitting on the plane home. I freaking loved it. It was one of the most satisfying reads I've had in the past 5 years. So today, I want to share my thoughts on this book and also on the broader world of Terre. Welcome to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. And this time with a bit of a twist, because we will do the review of the story, as well as my thoughts on the themes and the larger world of Terre. Okay, let's get cracking. Cassiel's Servant is a companion novel to Kushiel's Dart, and it tells the story of the same events from the perspective of Jacqueline Carey. Jacqueline recounts his life story from his childhood training in the Cassiel prefectory to his fateful meeting with Fedra and their adventures in Skaldia, Alba, and eventually on the battlefield. The book delves into his inner struggles, his devotion to Cassiel, and his love for Fedra. If I had to pin down the genre of this book, I would say it's a romantic fantasy that explores the themes of loyalty, duty, sacrifice, and identity. For me, here are the things I truly loved about the book. The Cassiel Brotherhood is so well built. I loved the rituals they had. I loved the training they did. I loved the lore we learned about them. I loved the ceremony where Jacqueline became a priest. And the depiction of celibate young men growing up in a warrior class was so well done. Out of sight of their tutors, they would look at each other and say, "Fight me." And then they would have fights between each other. They developed true friendships and they struggled with their celibacy. The setup was really fantastic and very well done. I also loved the character of Selwyn, and I adored watching the young Jacqueline grow up into a Cassiel brother. And then, when he is finally assigned to Delaney's household, seeing Fedra through Jacqueline's eyes was something else. It deepened my understanding of her character, and I absolutely loved him falling in love with her. The story from where they get together is one that I know very well. I have read Kushiel's Dart multiple times, but it was still incredibly satisfying to read from Jacqueline's point of view. For me, the scene I loved best in the book was the one before the walls of Troy Lamont. And if you know the scene, if you've read the books, you know the scene I'm talking about. If you know, you know. It was incredible from Jacqueline's point of view, and it made for a deeply satisfying read. If you've read the book, let me know in the comments what your favorite scene was. Now, there was one fly in the ointment that I have seen other reviewers highlight, and I won't shy away from it. It is true that even in Jacqueline's book, Fedra is the main character. She has main character energy, which is not to say that Jacqueline doesn't contribute. He obviously does, as he did in Kushiel's Dart as well. But Fedra is the driving force. Jacqueline is her perfect companion. I don't think this can really be overcome, since that is what they are written as and how they function as a duo. For me, this was part of the satisfaction of reading Jacqueline's story. I enjoyed reading his perspective as the perfect companion, but I can see how this could be a detraction for other readers. So, personally, I highly recommend this book. I loved it and I give it 5 stars. And if that surprised you, you clearly have not watched enough of my channel. Indeed, you can check out my interview with Jacqueline Carey right over there in the information card. So, after reading Kushiel's Servant, I went back and I reread Dart, and then Kushiel's Chosen, and then I reread Avatar, and since I was busy, I read Imriel's trilogy and Moirin's trilogy into the bargain. So let's expand a bit and talk about the world of Terre and the stories that Jacqueline Carey has told there. The first trilogy, headlined by Kushiel's Dart, remains my favorite. This is in no small part due to the enigmatic and ever-present Melisande as the villain. I did do a whole video on her, which you can check out in the information card, But basically, Melisande and her actions tie together the first two books in an incredible way. And Phaedra's protagonizing against her makes for a great story. And Phaedra's adversarial relationship is complicated by the almost love and very definitive attraction between the two women with their very different perspective and sexualities. Then, in the third book of the first trilogy, Kushiel's avatar comes around, and boy, the stakes climb through the roof. I love Kushiel's avatar. It is the book that reveals why Phaedra is as she is, and she is called by the gods to quite literally save the world from darkness, moving beyond Melisande's story, although still in part driven by her actions. Phaedra's journey into Darsanga to save the world from darkness remains one of my favorite arcs, not because of the horrors that she faces there, but because of the healing that she finds afterward with Jocelyn. For me, it brought home themes of healing after trauma and finding peace with a changed world. Now, Kushiel's avatar ends with Phaedra adopting Melisande's son, Imriel, and this leads us into the second trilogy, where we witness Imriel's emotional journey, navigating a world filled with shadows of his mother. The redemption arc of Melisande is subtle and yet profound. We don't see her becoming a hero, but she is no longer the person we want to see executed at first sight. And of course, we also get to see Imriel grow from a traumatized 10-year-old into a man who bears the scars of the past without suffering under them, which again for me brought in themes of healing from trauma and the hope that even if terrible things happen, you can recover from them, you can heal, and the scars can become memories that don't have to be the dominant driver of your life. Books resonate with different people for different reasons. For me, the healing that the characters went through after trauma is something I very much needed in my life, and it took me through some very rough patches in my own life. And for this reason, the first two trilogies will always be my favorite, because of that healing and that promise of hope. But that doesn't mean that the third trilogy isn't awesome, so let's talk about Naamah's trilogy or Moirin's story. One thing I did feel that the Naamah trilogy lacked was a overarching villain, but I think the bar was set so high with Melisande, I'm not sure if it could have been topped with any other villain. The other thing that makes the trilogy feel a little disjointed is that most of it takes place outside of Terre d'Ange, and Moirin essentially wanders the earth. So it's kind of a travelogue style of books where we meet people and then we say goodbye to them, and that is an almost constant theme throughout the books. For those reasons, it is not my top trilogy of the three. All that being said, in the second book, there is a villain called the Patriarch of River who made my blood boil. He made me angrier than the Markigar, angrier than Melisande, and honestly, if I could have reached through the pages of those books and throttled him, I would have. And that is because he was one of those villains who claimed to be acting for your own good or saving your soul. And I know people like that, and let's just say it's a good thing I don't own a gun. So there is definitely a villain in there that absolutely made me raging, and that is a good thing in a book, is to get a reader that riled up at the villain. Also, the climax of the trilogy in Terra Nova is gorgeous. The sacrifice that Bao has to make plays deeply with the themes of choice and what does honoring someone else's choices mean. It's a question that is fascinating to explore, and I love the conclusion that the trilogy came to in that regards. So overall, while I definitely think the first Kushiel trilogy is the strongest, both Imriel's trilogy and Moirin's trilogy are strong books that play with thematic elements that I very much enjoyed. And if you enjoyed them, let me know in the comments, hit the thumbs up button, and let's talk about what this channel is actually about, which is world building. When it comes to portraying the rich tapestry of Terre d'Ange's culture, Jacqueline Carey leaves no stone unturned. Take the Midwinter Masque, for instance. This isn't just a regular ball or a gathering. It's a vivid showcase of Terre d'Ange's high noble society with all its glamour, its intrigue, its decadence. Masks and music and merriment make it a spectacle, but beneath the surface there's politics at play, and the nobles have this chessboard of alliances and interplay where they shape the tale. And this festival matters. In Phaedra's trilogy especially, a lot of important events occur around the festival and its celebration. In Imriel's trilogy, the festival is juxtaposed with its counterpart in Alba, the Day of Misrule, which is wild and raucous and turns societal norms on their head. While the Midwinter Masque is about preserving and showcasing the order, the Day of Misrule revels in chaos. And it's a refreshing look at how different cultures, even in the same world, can have varying interpretations and celebrations. Now, Terre d'Ange wouldn't be Terre d'Ange without the religion that accompanies it. And of course, religion is a central part of any world builder's, any world builder's actions. Now, in Terre d'Ange, religion is not just a backdrop. It is a living, breathing entity that influences every facet of life. What sets the gods of Terre d'Ange apart from conventional pantheons is their tangible presence and direct influence. The Dangelines don't just worship them. They are the descendants of their gods, and they have the gifts to prove it. And because the gods are a very real presence in the lives of their people, the priests and priestesses are refreshingly different. Unlike many fantasy worlds where religious figures are often embroiled in political maneuverings, much as honestly they were in our world, in Terre d'Ange, the priests and priestesses genuinely feel called to their service. Their devotion is pure, their faith is unshakable, and their avoidance of politics is both notable and commendable. It's this sanctity and earnestness that adds another layer to the religious depth of the world. It changes a lot about the culture to truly have a mostly apolitical priesthood that is trying to make the world better in keeping with their God's principles. I honestly love Terre d'Ange, and I hope that you have enjoyed this journey of me sharing that love with you. Please do remember to hit the like button, and if you did like this video, check out my video on cultures, festivals, and foods. The algorithm does love it if you spend more time on the channel, so please click here on that recommended video.